Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening to our in-house guests and those watching this evening. First item on our agenda is to sign the November 4th state election warrant. Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Chairman, I move to sign the November 4th, 2014 state election warrant.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
All right, John, you want to witness this?
And make your X.
Free act indeed. Yeah, there's a little folder for you. Keep going. Keep going.
Next one.
What's the date today? 21st.
Thank you, John. We have the minutes of September 30th, regular session. Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the September 30th, 2014 regular session minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We also have executive sessions for September 30th.
Mhm. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the September 30th, 2014 executive session minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We have the regular session of October 6th. Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the October 6th, 2014 regular session minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And then we have finally the executive session of October 6th.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the October 6th, 2014 executive session minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. And we have legal bills for August.
Let's see, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. O'Leary.
I move to approve legal bills for August 2014 in the amount of $7,738.77 as follows. Copeland and Page PC General, $6,766.77. Copeland and Page PC Labor, $378. Copeland and Page Water, $594. Total $7,738.77.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Mr. Prisco.
Mr. O'Leary, we all set with the gills? Because I noticed there was still some continued.
We are not all set with the gills yet. We're still working with town council And the Guilds Council is trying to come to the most amicable arrangement we can as far as the most cost-effective way of doing it. So, and my guess is it's going to be a little while longer. I'll be happy to talk offline with you about it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Any other comments?
Yeah, and then you just had this one last thing, is Verizon lease. What is that?
It's a review for lease for cell tower location that went out to bid, I believe, in the spring.
Right.
And we're in
Okay.
the process of concluding contracting with it.
I had a feeling. Okay, thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
No further,
Oh, well said.
Discussion.
You're going to vote on that one, right?
yes,
am.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Unanimous. Anyone here for public comment? Guess not. Okay, next item is to approve the change of hours for the package store licenses. Mr. O'Leary?
Mr. Chairman, in accordance with the ABCC advisory issued September 8th, 2014, I move to approve the change of hours for, let's see, Bevand Inc., DBA New England Beverage, by changing the Sunday opening time to 10 a.m. to be effective October 23rd, 2014.
Second. Is that it?
So that's one at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Discussion? Mr. Prisco?
You know, when we did this last meeting, I voted against it, and, you know, still not a big fan of it, but after giving it some more consideration, I can understand it from a business perspective, why people want to do this, and I know they could just go to another town over, and I didn't realize how widespread it was to be opening and selling liquor on a Sunday at 10 o'clock, so I guess it does make us as a town overall a little less competitive, so reluctantly, I'm going to vote in favor of it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Prisco. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? We have two more.
Yep, I'm going to have to sign them too, gentlemen.
I don't know, I saw.
Let me just hold on.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, in accordance with the ABC advisory issued September 8th, 2014, I move to approve the change of hours for Molly's Store, Inc., DBA Ryer Store, by changing the Sunday opening time to 10 a.m. to be effective October 23rd, 2014.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Fode. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, in accordance with the ABCC advisory issued September 8th, 2014, I move to approve the change of hours for Pendleton Ventures, Inc., DBA Tedeschi's, by changing the Sunday opening time to 10 a.m. to be effective October 23rd, 2014.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fode.
Okay.
Is Pendleton, is that Tedeschi's?
Yeah.
Tedeschi's, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Next item on our agenda is call fighters retirement policy.
Second reading?
Second reading.
Did I miss the first one? I was after the first one, okay.
Oh, we got it done.
Probably why flew right through. And do we have a,
It is in there. And there is a motion in the package as well.
okay, I have the motion, but I don't have the,
That's the policy.
okay. Mr. Chairman, do you want to read the policy again? The proposed policy?
Sure.
Okay. Retirement age for call firefighters. Retirement age of any North Reading call firefighter will follow the same age requirements as a full-time firefighter as stipulated under Mass General Law, Chapter 32, Section 1, maximum age. The age on the last day of the month in which the member classified in Group 3 as provided for in paragraph G of subdivision 2 of Section 3 attains age 55, or if classified in any of the following occupations or positions classified for which the personnel administrator has determined pursuant to Section 2 of Chapter 415 of the Acts of 1987, that age is a bona fide occupational qualification. The last day of the month that a member in any such occupation position or position classifications attains age 65. A uniformed member of the paid fire department or uniformed member of a police department or of the police force, the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, or a member of the uniformed branch of the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife as determined by the personnel administrator, or a correctional officer, or a permanent crash crewman, crash boatman, fire controlman, or assistant fire controlman employed at the Edward Lawrence Logan International Airport. First reading was September 8th, 2014. So, Mr. Chairman?
We've had the second reading, and I don't think we've made any changes between the two.
No, sir.
Mr. O'Leary, you have a motion?
I do. Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the call firefighter retirement policy as read.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is that here? Opposed?
You want to leave that here?
You can leave it there, that's fine.
Unanimous. You all set, Steve?
All set.
Appointments, 4th of July Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I move to place in nomination the following name for appointment as a member of the 4th of July Committee: Nancy Wolf, 4 Sandspur Lane.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I would
O'Leary.
encourage my fellow board members and colleagues to appoint Ms. Wolf, as she's willing to step forward, and we haven't had that many. We certainly appreciate her willingness to serve. They can use the help.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Yule.
Yes. I was fortunate enough to attend their last meeting, Steve.
Yep.
When I thought I was the liaison.
You're more than welcome to.
So, but I did attend, and it was very interesting. Mr. TA, Mr. Giliberto was there as well. And one thing about Nancy is that she's in the process of developing a Friends for the 4th of July, what is it called, a benefit committee? A nonprofit committee to help them raise
Oh, great.
money. So that's a step in the right direction, and she's been working on that. So she'll be a good value added to that committee.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Roll call vote, Mr. Chairman, I guess.
Do we need a roll call vote?
So we can get it over with.
Well,
What?
I will record it if everybody's in favor, as aye.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
It's a landslide. Great.
Just hard to get volunteers. They have some non-voting members that seem to be participating, at least in the meetings, but not wanting the full responsibility of...
Well, Mr. Giliberto can correct me on my observation, but they've gone from many to a few. And the few, the members that they do have, they have, I guess this will make it, let's make it 4, the 4th member now that she's on.
This would make it their 3rd active member.
Actually,
Yeah.
3rd, okay, and that's what they need, in order to do the quorum, okay? And there are other people that, you're right, but they're in the distance, they're not coming forward as much as they would like. And I think that with what Nancy Wolf is doing is gonna change that.
With some leadership, maybe, and
Yeah,
some other people that act. Okay, good. Next item on our agenda is to vote to establish a gift account for the Historical Commission.
So when Jeff runs some more, they'll have a place to put it.
Right.
So, Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Chairman, I move to establish a gift account for the Historical Commission, one portion of which will be for general purposes and a separate portion dedicated to gifts intended for the Native American artifact display.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Yule.
I guess this is a direct result when somebody comes forward and does something, and it kind of identified that they needed to have the right procedures in place and so on. Having run the half marathon in Wilmington and survived, generated some funds to the committee. And it didn't break the bank, I'm not going to say that, but for the first time, they have people donating money to that committee, and this will help in that direction and help them towards their goal. And if somebody else wants to do something, they can do that, and that would be a positive. So it's a positive direction. It'll help them get closer to their goal. So. And I want to thank those who donated for this benefit. I want to thank them profusely because they didn't have to. And it was just an idea that took off a little bit and was very helpful. So I thank all of you.
Okay, Mr.
So is this a 501(c) account, or is this just
No,
a revolving account?
Pursuant to Mass General Law, it's a creation of a gift account. And certainly the finance director can correct me if at any point I say something that's not true. But it is a gift account established pursuant to the general law. There are other gift accounts that we have for other purposes. It just so happens we did not have one for historical commission-related purposes.
I'll hold my comments till we get to old and new business then.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? The next item is to discuss the intermunicipal water agreement. This is going to be just a brief report from the town administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the board is aware, I was contacted by the town manager approximately a month or so ago, town manager in Andover, consulted with this board. I've met with the town manager on 3 occasions. We've had a good discussion with regard to the issues that are pending on this matter. We are scheduled to meet again this Friday. I'm planning to go to Andover to be with him, where we will continue our discussions, and it is my expectation that I'll provide an update to the board and a public update at the next board meeting. I would note that there was an update provided to the Andover Board of Selectmen at their meeting last evening. There was a reference made to an estimated cost to the town of North Reading to purchase water from the MWRA as an alternative source in the future. We are reviewing the projected costs, and I will present the information that we find in my dialogue with the town manager on Friday. But I believe that the numbers will be substantially lower than those that have been proposed publicly in Andover. But we'll present that information in the dialogue and update the board at the next meeting.
Questions, comments? Moving right along. FY 2016 budget submission process. Are you going to take
Yes.
that lead, or is it Liz?
No, Mr. Chairman, I would like to, but certainly, Liz, if you could jump in at any point in time on this where I've said anything in error or otherwise, please let me know. So essentially, as we are heading into a very busy budget season, we're at this point in the midst of the review of the capital request for fiscal year 2016. I thought it might be useful to review with the board to make sure that not only with this board, but with the finance committee as well, myself, the finance director, and both boards are on the same page with regard to a budget process. I've reviewed the documentation and reviewed the process that's been used in the past. I've received quite a bit of background information from the finance director, and certainly appreciate her providing her experience and her insights with regard to the process. I've also received the same through some of the conversation at the strategic financial planning meetings that have occurred over the past couple of months as well. And all of that has generated two things that I would identify and want to discuss with the board. And I don't think that this is by any means a final discussion with regard to the process, because I think it will evolve. But we are at this point recommending that there be some amendments made to the budget departmental submission format. And we have a draft that's here, basically for purposes of review. The examples that were provided were for the assessing department. It's the start of our dialogue. There's going to be conversation with the finance committee as well, but the goal is to try to provide as much useful information for all of the boards, including real-time expenditure information for the current fiscal year, as well as the trends for the past, in a consolidated format. Again, this is not a final form, what's in the packet. This is a draft. But I just wanted it to be out there for the board to review and be aware of the dialogue that was going on. My intention at this point is to handle the budget process in a very hands-on approach. And by that I mean when the departments are requested to submit their budget requests, I will do that in the context of a department head meeting, our regular monthly department head meeting. Ms. Paveo and I will walk them through the format and what's expected and what my expectations are from the position of town administrator. And then once the budgets are submitted, which I expect to be by the first week of December, we will review those. So we, being the finance director, and I will review them in face-to-face conversations with all of the department heads individually. And then it would be my expectation, based on the discussions that I have, to be able to make a recommendation to this board for an initial first pass review, along with the finance committee as well, for then what would be public vetting. There may be instances where there are requests made by department heads that are modified when they are reviewed by the finance director and I prior to submission to the board, and we certainly would have no problem with disclosing those items in meetings if it would be productive for conversation. But I think, from what I understand, it may be a change in the process from what's happened in the past. Another point that's kind of driving all of this is the fact that there will be a new governor, and that new governor will be afforded up to an additional month to propose a budget to the legislature for its consideration. And then, of course, there'll be a number of weeks of time for it to be digested before a reaction is known publicly in terms of how viable that budget request is and what we can reasonably expect for any changes in the major local aid accounts come the later portion of the budget process. So I'm hoping that we can balance the ability and the incorporation of that as a moving target with the fact that I will be going through the budget process for the first time, and again, where I may see areas for efficiencies or for reorganization, I would want to propose that through the budget process. That will require some time. So in doing that, right now you see that there are dates that are identified with the budget meetings beginning on the 28th of February, and then with the meetings concluding later on in the wintertime, excuse me, on April 6th. I'm not sure. I'm trying to gauge from the board whether this is a process that the board would be supportive of. I'm trying to balance giving the board ample opportunity to review the document, but making sure that I'm putting forth a recommendation that's our best foot forward, and that reflects as much of the variables as known. So I don't think we certainly won't know for certain state aid numbers until really after the town meeting, for all certainty. We'll know mostly what they will be after the Senate finishes its deliberations in early May. I'm not advising that we would need to do anything to change the schedule that dramatically, but if the desire of the board is that the budget, I guess to put the question more directly, it's going to be difficult to know whether the budget is balanced or not, because we won't really know pure revenue figures in February or March, but I'll certainly do my best to make a proposal based on that and modify it along the way. But it would be my intention to attempt to propose a balanced budget as of the latest known information come February, really February 13th, and then have the first public review be on February 28th. Again, I haven't gone through this process myself. I'm going based on the feedback I've gotten from a number of individuals, including members of this board and the finance committee, as well as the finance director. But I just want to gauge an understanding that this is something that the board would be amenable to, that this is a process that would not be problematic down the road. But knowing that it may need to change as we go forward, it's entirely possible that if I may feel that I need additional time, and I would make that request far in advance if that were necessary, but I would ask for the board's consideration. And again, this is all driving to, there are many areas where we do things very, very well, and there are areas where we may want to look to make improvements, and I may want to make some recommendations for making improvements, and that'll take some time and some thoughtful review. But my goal is to have a document submitted to you come February 13th, with the first budget meeting being February 28th.
Michael, just in terms of the overall process, and it's been more or less the same for a number of years, is typically we go in after we figured out what our local aid is and what our insurance increases are going to be. And then we have a rough idea of where we're going to be, and we use basically level funding of the state aid. Right? And I agree, this year we may have a budget number that's a month later, but in the process, what it does is it flushes out what the gaps are going to be, if there are going to be any.
Right.
And I'm sure there will be. And it also, in the process of understanding what the gaps are, it gives both the school department and the town, ample time to, figure out how they're going to deal with that. And then when we get closer to, obviously the Senate can, finally, the joint committees can approve the budget, even after our regular town meeting.
Sure.
But I think what we do is we go in with our best guess of information, and then we adjust the budget, hopefully by getting some additional funds in local aid and state aid. That gap gets closed on both sides. So, if you have a gap, and then you have a plan on how you're going to deal with the gap, and as additional money may become available, you take off the items that are less, the more critical items on the list of whatever has to be reduced. So I think that's just a normal process. I don't see how you get around it based on when we get our information.
Well, in a perfect world, from my role, we would have all the numbers known, and the budget would be presented and would be balanced at the time it's presented, and all of that would be determined. But obviously, that's not the way the system works politically or otherwise at the state level. So
That's why we moved our spring town meeting to June,
Right.
so that we'd have more accurate information
Right.
from April, because that was really
We had a very early April.
Right.
we used to have it very early in April, and
Right.
we had no figures. We get best guess, and
Mr. Yule?
Yes, would this put us into a situation where we might have to have a special town meeting to approve the budget?
No, sir.
No? Okay. And you said something at the beginning, and I couldn't hold on to the thought, and I think you were showing, you said something to the effect that this is the
There's
The
more
format-
information on
the
the
format that you were going to use. Is
Yes.
that on the, like, the Town North Reading FY 2016 budget, this format here? Is that what you're talking about?
Right now, the working draft format, and it would be identified for the example given, it's only an example, was the
Right.
assessing department. And you'll see,
Okay.
the changes in that formatting are that there was at one point a category that identified preliminary and final town administrator numbers. And at this point, and then it also included Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, Town Meeting.
Right,
It had
right.
3 columns that stayed
If you
vacant.
actually slide down two slides, Jeff, you'll see the old format that we had.
Right, okay.
And so,
It's certainly reflective of what the process will be, but at the time it's printed and given to the board, those fields will remain empty for a number of months. So
Right.
my proposal would be to not include them in the first pass because they don't get filled out. It's not out of any reason other than that. It'll make the worksheets a little more usable, I think.
save ink.
Yeah, save ink, save eye strain as well.
oh, yeah.
Mr. Prisco?
No, I really like this. This is a very, this is a great first attempt. Just a question on the FY14. So you have the original budget and the revised budget. Is there really even need to have both of those columns? Can you just do one that's an approved budget? And even make it a little bit wider?
So can we just have revised
or approved, because even if it's revised, it's approved, right?
Right.
So, to me, any way we can get this a little larger for us to read it, the better.
That's fine with us.
I love it, and I really like that now you're adding spent as of December 31st of 2014. It does only give you a 6-month look at each individual column, but at least give you an idea of where you are spending. And the numbers can tell the story. So if you have somebody that's only spent 30% of their budget in 6 months, you can ask the question, but it most likely will be, well, I don't do the spending until April or February or whatever the following year. So I love that. It at least gives us an indicator of where they are spending wise. And I really do also like what you did with the way you're going to approach 2016, because we used to have 5 or 6 columns, if I remember correctly, on that side. And this is a heck of a lot easier to read, so I appreciate the effort. Maybe one other thing I could offer as consideration is this year, if you have a certain number you place in on a spreadsheet, can you consider using a notes? Have you ever used the notes function in the cell? And it gives you a little block with a line. And if you have the white space down below with the line going to the cell, at least it's kind of sometimes hard for us to see it inside the narrative, which is several pages back. It's something to think about. It's not a must-do, but it would be helpful.
I realize this is a draft. The actual expenditures for 2014 we should have, correct?
We have them, yes.
Yeah, okay. It's just not on the form, right?
No, it's a process for
Yeah,
us to roll
understood.
forward
I
all
just-
of the
yeah.
budget sheets.
Mhm.
I could read this. It's great.
It's
But you go down 2 more sheets, I
Yeah.
couldn't read that.
That's the old one.
this
It's
one?
just, the next one, even we have another one in our packet that you may not have there. It's the old version, the old.
Yes.
You blow it up,
Well, the
Yeah, you have to blow it up.
but it's even worse.
Just was printed
That was
this
it.
way instead of.
Michael just doesn't want to be seen with reading glasses on.
No, not yet. I'm fighting it. I am fighting it.
It's coming, it's coming.
It's coming. I know it is. I'm losing that battle.
This is how it will be printed in the book.
Yeah.
And that's great. I
No,
can
this
see
is,
that.
this is nice.
One more thing.
Yes, Mr. Prisco.
Can we maybe have a discussion as a board on how we're going to do the paper versus electronic version? Because I don't want to call you out, Liz, but I have to assume it's a tremendous amount of work to do the paper, especially when you make changes. So, I mean, I know some board members like the paper, but is it a big challenge? I mean, how big of a challenge is it
To make the paper budgets?
to keep all our packets, our paper books updated? Because we got a lot of confusion last year.
There was a
A lot of paper
updates.
coming in and out,
Mhm.
and a lot of us had,
And knowing where it goes.
Yeah, it was
and
really frustrating.
Which replaces which. I mean, I'll do
I went
whatever.
100% electronic.
Wants.
It was great last year after I did that, because I got frustrated.
I mean, that's, I've been doing the electronic, and when I need to make notes, I'm looking at it in PDF viewer,
Mhm.
and you can make markups there.
I still prefer the book. I like that.
I'm on the fence on that, I'm not sure.
You could admit it.
No, I mean, I'm trying to master this darn thing, so.
Well, if anybody's interested in using an electronic tool on your iPad, I'm more than happy to sit down and go over it with you on how to use it. Because there's some tools out there that are very inexpensive to purchase that you can make notes, you can highlight, and you can keep your notes organized in the electronic document far easier than what you can do in the paper. Because Liz is providing us updated paper, and it sometimes some paper get lost. It does, it just gets lost.
Any other comments regarding the budget process? Dates, quick glance, they seem to be adequate to deal with what we need to deal with. The Saturday meeting is the big review, gives the department has an opportunity to present their budgets. The one thing that we've had with respect to that is they got to be told they're going to limit it to a particular block of time. So
And
we
whoever
had an
agrees- whoever
ex-police
agrees- whoever-
chief that,
Yeah, and whoever agrees to bring the muffins or the scones gets up first.
That's right.
They can
That's
buy
right,
our
that's
affection, and they can buy time slots.
If they home bake them, they even
Yeah,
get an
that's
extra
right.
5% in their budget.
You know,
But yeah, we don't need a pitch necessarily.
Mr.
We don't need a pitch
Mr.
on
Chairman,
the.
I'm trying to recall, I don't recall this kind of a presentation being given to us in the past,
what?
With the timeline?
the timeline.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, every year.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
You may have
because I
seen
wanted
it
to
in a
com-
piece of paper rather than.
Right, I guess so, then maybe that's it, but it's
It's a
very
piece of
concise.
paper you
and-
lost that was
it's
given.
very- It's very
Now,
concise, and I
a lot
appreciate
of the timeline stuff comes to some degree out of the discussions of the financial planning team. The school committee puts a timeline together, and we try to work it out so that, you know, the integration of the budget and dealing with the so-called gap that we live with until we know what our final numbers are, and so on and so forth. So it's important that we keep to a schedule. My concern was that when we gained the July timeframe, right, we picked up that extra 2 months.
You mean the June?
June,
Yeah.
really, yeah. When we ended up with 2 extra months, but we gave it away on the other end. And this is an attempt to bring it back a little bit. And, you know, part of it's got to do with Mr. Gilberto coming on board, having to get up to speed, and the other piece is that we got this one additional delay in getting initial budget numbers, so. Not that it really matters, I guess, because we always end up guessing anyway. Any other comments on the budget process?
I like the format, thank you.
Okay. We've got to nail down some dates, starting with the joint appointment with the CPC. And this is an appointment that will run to the, cover through the next election, which is in May. So this will be appointment for an individual for May. And then, and I think I've got resumes from 3 candidates.
3 candidates, yeah.
Right, which is good.
Okay.
I recommend that, I haven't yet called, but I plan on calling all of them.
CPC is going to hold interviews on November 4th. Wanted me to pass along to the board members. If you wanted to attend at 8 p.m., they're going to start them.
November 4th?
On
Election
November
day?
4th. And you can come in and listen, you can ask questions, but they're going to bring all the candidates in. And,
Election day.
yeah,
It's
but
election day.
8 p.m. They did talk to Barbara Stats to make sure it wasn't a conflict of doing it on that day. And she said as long as it doesn't impact the people's ability to go vote, that they could go ahead and have the meeting at 8 p.m.
Here?
8 p.m. here in room 5. I'm planning on attending. But
Okay.
if you can't, and, you know, like Bob's saying.
I
obviously-
recommend at least you give them a phone call.
Right.
Yeah.
Discussion. So, one of the issues we have is, this is a joint appointment, we have to do it in a joint meeting. It doesn't have to be our board meeting, it could be theirs. Do we have some dates? I know,
We had a date of November 12th that was proposed, which was the next regular Board of Selectmen meeting. There was an issue with regard to
Mr.
availability.
Mills
Yeah,
can't attend.
That's correct. The chairman of the CPC is not available. So, I apologize, I do not have the date of the next CPC meeting in front of me, but I can probably figure
I
it
have
out.
it.
Or Selectman Prisco, if you may.
Just get my calendar up here. It is the 28th. Tuesday, the 28th, 7:30. That's the next CPC meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, would you happen to have the next meeting following
After
that? After the meeting, November
After the
4th?
interviews.
That's October 28th we're
Yes.
talking about?
Yeah, but
They meet,
they're not gonna interview them until the 4th, though.
right.
Yeah.
So,
25th?
so no, they meet the 2nd and
4th, right.
4th.
Yes,
So it'd be
25th
the
of
11th, I think, would be their next CPC meeting.
Okay, right.
Which is a
That's
state
it.
No
holiday.
school,
Yeah,
it's
it's
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day, so it's the 12th, and we have a meeting scheduled for the
Right, we
12th
are,
ourselves.
matter of
right?
fact, that is they are meeting on the 12th, that's right.
So we could,
We have a meeting
And-
that evening also.
yeah, so
Yeah.
we
Plus
So they
could,
could come in here,
they start, what time do they?
7:30.
7:30,
So they could be here at
we
7.
could schedule them at 7 o'clock.
Again, that's the evening their chairman's not available.
Oh,
November
okay.
12th.
Oh, that's.
So I'm not
that's
sure whether
right.
they're still
That's
having
what
a
the
meeting or
issue
not.
is.
They may still be meeting, but I know he's not available that evening.
Also, that's was that meeting during the day for the,
That's in the evening, but we'll come to that issue in a moment.
okay. Jumping the gun, huh?
What meeting is that one?
Kinder Morgan.
Oh,
So what how are we gonna close on this?
Well, I'm not sure whether they have a meeting scheduled on the 25th, Tuesday, the 25th of November, but they may, based on the rhythm of their regular meeting schedule. Is there availability for board members on that evening,
What date was that again?
November 25th?
well, I mean, you could do just a special meeting the week of the 17th at some point, just to make the appointment, you know, I don't know. But, maybe.
That may be, because we have a meeting on the 24th, I believe, as it is, so that may work better.
And you want to give this individual some sort of a tenure,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know?
So could we look for availability for board members the week of November 17th? then?
November 17th, the
Yes.
week of?
it would be
Week of.
like a 7:30 meeting or 7 o'clock meeting?
Presumably 7 if there, I don't know if we're going to meet with multiple candidates or not,
Mhm.
but if we were, we probably would want to start a little earlier if possible.
And if need be, you may want to set that up for a session for us for
Previous.
contract negotiation strategy. Two, you know, I don't know.
The only
That's a
day
good point.
I
You know?
have, the only conflict I have that week is the 20th. I have a Dare to Begin meeting, that's it. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever you guys choose is fine with me.
Well, we would, our normal meeting schedule would be the 3rd and the 17th, correct?
Correct, but
But
we,
we're
because
not.
I think there was some conflicts, we now,
Yeah, so we did the 10th and the.
We're
Oh,
doing
no,
the
that's right, we
24th.
moved it to the 12th.
and the 24th. Yep.
12th and
And the
24th.
24th,
12th,
right, that's right. So the week of the 17th, is the board interested in scheduling a meeting as a work session? It doesn't have to be on the Monday night.
Yeah, so check with the CPC's availability to make that appointment, and
Okay.
then see what that is, and then,
And I'll put
Yeah,
a,
the
and then
18th
we'll
I'll
see if
note
we,
everybody.
see if we want to set
would be
something up.
best for me.
what?
The 18th would work best for me.
Okay.
And the 19th, either one of those
So we'll
days.
we'll try to circle back then. on that.
18th is the best one.
Preferably the 18th or
Okay.
19th. Everyone else can make, Joe, you
Yep.
have, you're okay? All right.
So it's one of those 2 days, 8.
You'll-
with
So in addition to the
the CPC.
the joint appointment, we would be running our executive session to create our contract negotiation strategy.
Yes.
We wouldn't have, it wouldn't be a regular meeting other than the
I'll
joint
wait for the joint
appointment.
appointment.
Okay?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
That week,
Right.
we would, when we pick the date, right, we would have a joint meeting with the CPC first
that's it.
thing.
Yeah,
That would be a public meeting for the appointment of an interim
right, I
CPC
understand that.
member.
Okay.
And then we would proceed into executive session for the purposes of discussing contract negotiation strategy.
Okay.
Because we have contracts coming due at the end of this fiscal year for everybody but fire. And we talked about it
Okay.
earlier.
Got it.
Okay? And so we have one other important date, and that is that so we do have a board meeting on the 12th. We postponed our strategic planning meeting on the 29th, because I think it's Mr. Yule can't make it, correct, Jeff?
Yes.
However, we will have a brief meeting on that date,
We are.
on the 29th, at 6 o'clock, for the sole purpose of signing
Oh.
the bonds.
Yep.
So, we need a quorum for that. Do we have a quorum?
I'll be there.
So that shouldn't take more than 15, 20 minutes, I would guess.
What time, 6?
6 o'clock.
Not a problem.
So, strategic planning meeting. When are we gonna have it?
Well, the 30th.
November 30th,
October.
October 30th.
I am not available.
What?
I will not be available the 30th. One of my colleagues is retiring and.
31st is Halloween.
That's a good
Be
time.
away.
Halloween's the 31st.
Syracuse.
The following week, I can make any day but the 7th, which is the Friday.
I cannot make it the 7th, and
I can make it the 4th.
the 4th is election
4
day,
weeks.
and you've got
We got the
CPC
CPC
interviews.
things that night, yeah.
5th. Yeah, the 5th.
Want to do it on the 5th? Wednesday?
Might have a Hillview. Hillview may not be available on the 5th, right?
6th.
Depending upon, I'm just thinking out loud.
In terms of the venue,
Yeah, I
and
can't
this
do
is
the sixth.
another item I was going
5th
to
works.
suggest.
I'll make the one. I can't
I
do
was
the
going to propose to the board potentially having the planning session at the police department, because I think the room may be a little more interactive in terms of being able to use some of the amenities that it offers for whiteboard type work, if the board's amenable to that. I think
Yeah.
Selectman Masseri was in
Well,
agreement that that might be.
like that.
So
I know
can
the
we,
police department is
when
willing
we
to.
put down the 5th for that?
Yeah, we'll start, usually, what time we usually start on that meeting?
But
If
this
you're not
is-
sure, I don't want to schedule it, because then we'll be doing what
I'm
we're
positive.
doing already.
This is what, our strategic planning?
Yeah.
We do it. That's police station? Police station. What time do we usually start on?
6.
6.
And we'll arrange for some food somehow. And if the police, if that room is unavailable, I'll get back to you, but.
So November 5th is the,
Yeah.
at 6 PM?
Okay. Town administrators report?
Mr. Chairman, there's one more matter relative to meeting schedules
Oh, sorry.
that I had communicated with you and with Selectman Yule regarding. We had been contacted by Kinder Morgan relative
Oh,
to
yeah.
their desire to host a open house here in North Reading. It would be a targeted open house that would address other communities in our region, specifically, I believe, North Reading, Wilmington, and Linfield, who would be affected by the pipeline. Upon learning that the date that they were looking to have the meeting occur in North Reading, that it was November 12th, I contacted our contact there, as well as his superiors, and advised them strongly against hosting the meeting in conflict with the Board of Selectmen meeting. And unfortunately, those comments apparently were not taken, because then I received 24 hours later a notification that the meeting schedule was final and that there was a meeting
That's
scheduled to take
right,
place
yeah.
on November 12th in our high school cafetorium. I
Tell them they
believe.
can't use our building.
So that is an alternative. I had indicated to them, look, in the first conversation, I said, do everything you can to adjust the schedule and contact me if that's not the case. And they said, are you telling us that we can't use the building? And I said, no, I'm not telling you that. I want you to call me back and tell me whether or not you can adjust the schedule first. And instead, what they did is opted to proceed forward and schedule the meeting. So I've expressed to them my disappointment, first, that they didn't incorporate that consideration, A, and B, that they decided not to communicate in advance of finalizing the schedule. We can certainly tell them that the room is no longer available and require them to have the meeting elsewhere. What it will mean is that there probably won't be a meeting in North Reading.
My problem with this is, we're having a difficult time setting, trying to get a meeting set with them and schedule a date that works for us. How difficult is it to deal with them when they want to start, if in fact they
Did you
can
get
start
that?
construction? I did see it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Did you see
Yeah.
that?
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I really don't want
I've
to
not
move
seen
on
that
board
yet, no.
meetings.
Pass that down.
Yeah,
Steve.
I've already moved my
I got a
whole
copy
schedule
for
around.
you.
But what I just want to identify is that if we tell them the room is not available, it's likely that they will reschedule the meeting to another community rather than reschedule it to another date. And if that's something we want to do, we can, but I didn't want to lose the opportunity to still have them in town. One concept that the chairman and I had discussed is whether we consider moving our meeting date from November 12th to November 13th that week. It's not ideal, it just means that we would be out another night that week, obviously. I've expressed my dissatisfaction. I'm also in contact with our legislative delegation on this as well. But it would, my concern is if we tell them the room's not available, we won't have a meeting in North Reading. They'll just go to another community and.
This is just their attitude. It's just horrible. Their attitude is, I mean, you made a request. You didn't even tell them it wasn't available, you know.
My-
you just
my
said,
first
"Can you call me
reaction
back
was, I
prior
think
to-"
I sent you, tell
I
them,
guess he doesn't want
tell them they can't meet that day, that's all.
Oh, we can, I mean, I
But
just,
you said, Bob, if
No,
you
but
do
I
that,
think we have to look out for
they're
them.
gonna go to another town.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I understand.
But, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Jim.
I mean, I think we unfortunately have to do this. We have to include the residents of the town, the property owners of the town in this process, and this is an opportunity for them. I think that if we chose not to have the meeting here for whatever reason, I don't think it'll be to the benefit of the community.
No, and based on the schedule, what I think they'd do is just say, well, you're welcome to go to any one of these other meetings. Let your citizens know. And none of them are, you go to Pepperell or Drake, the rest of them are even further away.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the positive thing to do is to have it here. Now, did they wanted to have it in this building in
No, for the recommendation, it's scheduled, I believe, at this point in the high school cafeteria.
the high school cafeteria?
Yes, sir.
The old high school?
The new high school.
The new high school.
In the cafeteria?
Yes.
Will we charge them for the use of the
Do they,
Double.
can we say, have it in the, I keep calling it auditorium, but it's not an auditorium anymore.
Performing Arts Center.
In the Performing Arts Center, is there an advantage?
There would be a disadvantage. The meeting is intended to have workstations for residents to
Oh,
go to,
okay,
to interact with
that's
people
right, that's
directly. So that would have been my preference, but based on the type of event, it needs a
Yeah.
more open and flat space where tables can be set up and the public can mill around.
The heck, they could do it in the hallway. So,
You're on Main Street.
right, do it in Main Street.
Yeah.
So, but I think that it's important that we do it. You know, I've been going to the meetings and gathering as much information as I can to understand what we're up against. And one of the things we are up against is arrogance, unfortunately. But we have to deal with it and work with it.
Mr. Prisco.
So, is there a conflict for anybody if we move to the 13th, our board meeting? Bob, did you have a conflict on the 13th?
No?
The only conflict comes at home.
Yeah, I hear you. It's gonna,
It's like
I
you're
have,
on-
Really?
I have something that night, but
No
I'm,
conflict at home.
yeah, she wants you out. I'll have to make it work if that works for everyone.
Because the EdStat thing is on the 14th
Yeah.
in the morning.
Right.
Oh, what the heck?
And the 15th is the library, I think.
Yeah.
Where's the EdStat thing? What is that?
That is, hold on.
Well,
I'll talk to you
What day is it?
are you saying you can't make the meeting on the 13th?
later. No, I'm not saying that.
Oh, okay.
No,
It's not
it's not.
Friday.
Okay. The one reason, the one meeting that we really need the whole board for is our
It's at,
strategic
right.
planning meeting. Now, if someone can't make a meeting on occasion, we'll try to accommodate, but if we can't, then
8:30.
we'll be missing one individual.
Right. No, I understand.
So we're gonna move the 12th to the 13th. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah, I'll have
Thank
to
you.
Deal with the home stuff. I'll make it.
All right. Town administrators report.
So, 13th is gonna be Selectmen, and that was going to be, it's a 6 o'clock?
Yeah. Well, tentatively 6, if we don't need an executive session, or only a short one, we'll change the time. So just check the,
And Veterans Day. I'm not sure I'm going to be available this year to do the speech for Veterans Day.
no?
I may be out of town.
Mm-hmm. I'm planning on being there. Anyone else going?
Maybe,
I'll be there.
Anyone want to
13th.
give the Veterans Day speech? Anyone interested? No takers, I guess I'll do it.
You do a fine job.
What?
You do a fine job.
I'll dig up one of the men.
I've done it for the last 3 years. You want, I can send you what I've done if you want to see it.
No, Michael, I can
All
take
right.
care of it.
I'm just being nice.
I know
Doing me a
you are.
favor,
I'm
so.
not, I'll find a theme. Okay, Mr. Gilberto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And for the board's information, in the Dropbox folder for tonight's meeting is an amended town administrator's report to reflect a couple of late breaking and updated items. I will review them all in my report here this evening. So the first of the items that were in the initial draft, Fire Chief and the Water Department Director have participated in a recurring ISO rating review for fire insurance ratings for the town. The town has been notified that it has maintained, albeit on a new rating system, a rating of 4/4X. Again, there's a new system that's in place, but this is consistent with where our rating has been in the past on the new system. I appreciate the work of the fire department, the police, and the water department to provide the information needed for that rating. As the board is aware, the fire department's fire alarm repair bucket truck has been out of service for a few weeks, and the Middleton fire alarm truck has been available as an emergency backup. I requested the fire chief to inquire if any of our surrounding communities could participate in a joint procurement of a replacement truck. Unfortunately, there's no willing partner town at this time. The Capital Improvement Planning Committee and Finance Committee have discussed replacing the vehicle with a used vehicle at a cost anticipated at this time to be under $20,000, rather than purchasing a new vehicle at an estimated cost of approximately $80,000, as was to be originally requested through the Capital Improvement Planning process. Finance Committee expressed that it would be willing to fund a reserve fund transfer later in the year to address any shortfall in the fire department budget caused by the purchase of a used vehicle if we were to pursue in this way. This a procurement of a secondhand vehicle, my understanding is that it would be consistent with how we purchased the vehicle that is about to be retired. It's at a substantial cost savings rather than purchasing a new vehicle. We've also investigated acquiring a Reading Municipal Light surplus truck. Fire department went down and viewed the trucks, and unfortunately their trucks are much larger than the truck that is out of service right now, and in poor condition, to put it lightly. So the alternative on the table at this point is to procure a secondhand vehicle. We believe we've identified a vehicle that we can acquire at a reasonable cost. And at this point is a direction that we intend to receive for replacement cost. With regard to...
Mr. Yule?
Yeah,
One second.
You have here a number like around under $20,000. Is that a reasonable amount for used?
Yeah, from what we see out there, there are vehicles that appear to be in good condition, and that the price would be a fair price identified. We certainly will need to go through a quote process to procure this, so we'll have to look at a couple of alternatives before we can sign on the dotted line with somebody, but based on the initial review of what's out there, we believe we can secure a vehicle at that cost that's in good condition.
So the a fair number available, is that what you're saying?
There's at least one at this point in time, yes.
Thank you.
You'll see attached a copy of a report that the police chief provided me regarding a complaint that was recently received by the department concerning the intersection at Park and Concord Streets. And I believe the complaint was also submitted to the newspaper as well. You'll see the police department has met with the, has gone down there, has responded to the residents' request, has identified some areas for improvements that could be made, and will look to implement those improvements that are feasible as soon as possible. Again, that's the intersection of Park and Concord Streets.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gill.
Yeah. Chief Murphy has been doing an excellent job, taking care of the roads as far as from a safety perspective is concerned. He did it, as far as I know, he was very much involved in doing a super job in correcting the issue in front of the school with just moving the line 1.5 feet or so to one side. It's a much safer corner, and I appreciate that. This corner that Barbara Salata is talking about is an extremely dangerous corner. I've had an accident on there, and fortunately, the young person who was driving the car who came out from Southwick was not hurt, but it turned out to be a 3-car accident. People don't stop at that intersection. I don't know why they can't handle the stop signs, but it's a very, very dangerous intersection. It's amazing that there hasn't been more of an accident, a more deadly accident on that corner. But people drive very fast on Concord Street, and people drive very fast on Park Street past my house, all right? And then the people coming from Main Street are driving very fast. So it's a boom, everybody meets there. And poor Southwick, very, very difficult to make that left-hand turn. The right-hand turn's easy. The left-hand turn, extremely difficult. So I appreciate Barbara coming forward and writing this letter, and I understand her pain and what she went through. I know in my case, when I saw the expression of the kid who just jutted out at the last second, and I just put my foot on the brakes, and all I could do is hope for the best. So I think that Chief Murphy will address this in a very good way, and you said he has looked at some.
Yes, look at some alternatives to improve, try to improve safety as best as possible.
And I'll be more than willing to work with him on this too. So, thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Prescott.
I believe there's going to be a capital request regarding digital speed signs, right?
Yes, I'm expecting a capital request. It'll be a small capital request through the FY16 budget process out of the police department. That's correct.
Great. I look forward to that discussion when we get to the budget, because I think Southwick Road is one of the examples, maybe a great place to install one of those, because people do fly up and down that road, and maybe even in this other area. Okay, thank you.
Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board, I believe, is aware that the town has won a Northeast Metropolitan Regional Vocational Technical School lottery for $10,000 worth of auto body or repair labor. 3 potential vehicles have been identified for repair, and a final decision on the repair based on feasibility and the cost of any of the parts associated will be made in the next week or so. We can do multiple vehicles, so we do have a couple of options that we're looking at, and we'll brief the board when the final decision is made. But something we can take advantage of. We won, so that's a great position to be in. And they came and presented the certificate, which is in my report, last Monday or Tuesday, I believe. I'm pleased to report.
Excuse me, just on that one there, I think some recognition to our elected school committee member, Judy Diamond, for coming up and getting Michael's signature for the lottery application. Should be noted. And from what I understand, Judy's reaction was if like she won something at a carnival that night at the school committee meeting when, our name was pulled out of the hat. But it's a great thing that it's good for the vocational school, it's good for the town. And I'd like to see us take advantage of some of the services that the vocational school has. We have it over the years, and we really should. And it's a great experience for the kids down there, and it's cost-effective for us. But I want to thank Mrs. Diamond for taking the initiative to bring the application up to Mike and have him sign it, and I'm happy we were successful.
I'm pleased to report that the bond rating agency Moody's has issued the town a rating of AA2 for $3,516,000 in taxable and non-taxable bonds to be issued in the coming weeks. Moody's also affirmed the same rating issued to $89.7 million in outstanding bonds. According to Moody's, and I'm drawing this directly from their press release, the rating reflects the town's satisfactory financial position, sizable tax base with above-average wealth levels, and above-average yet manageable debt burden. The town's good standing is a reflection of effective stewardship of town finances by the joint efforts of the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and School Committee. I would like to recognize Finance Director Liz Paveo, who's here with us this evening, Treasurer Mary Ann McKay, and Assessing Manager Debbie Carbone for their efforts throughout this rating process and for bringing me up to speed on the matters related to it over the past weeks. I attached Moody's press release for your information as well. Certainly good news for the town. It affirms the position we were in when last issued a rating back in May. And again, pleased to hear that news. Attached to my report is a copy of the annual vacancies advertisement that will be publicized in the next week. There are positions available on 10 boards, commissions, or committees, which will be up for appointment or reappointment. Interested parties are encouraged to contact the office at 978-664-6010 for an application. This information will be submitted to the newspaper and will be posted to the town website and NORCAM as well. We hope to have multiple interested parties. And finally,
excuse me, Mike, I don't see that. I don't see that attachment.
if you're in the amended report, which is in the folder rather than in the packet itself, it should be the
Gotcha.
second to last, or third to last, and second to last pages.
Right here,
It says vacancies on committees on the top of it.
administrative.
Oh, that's in Dropbox, you're talking
Yep.
about? Oh, there it is.
I didn't know it was there either.
Again, my apologies, but this draft was finished yesterday, and the Moody's press release was released the same day, so. Keep the board apprised, I issued an amended report and put it in Dropbox.
Good.
And again, we'll be advertising this through the forum that I had identified, and we hope to have interested parties apply. Finally, although there is no reason to believe at this point that Ebola is present in Massachusetts, I do want to report to the board and the community that the town is monitoring the situation through an incident command model that involves the health director, police and fire chiefs, emergency management director, and myself. We've participated in state conference calls for the past 3 weeks and have issued general reminders and guidance to first responders to make sure that they are aware of the best practices that they should be following, and really what the key questions are to ask if there's somebody exhibiting symptoms to determine or rule out whether this is a potential Ebola case. The state has put an epidemiologist on call and made that information available to first responders, so we've shared that information as well with shift commanders, and they'll have the ability to triage and question should there be any suspected case. And again, we have no reason to suspect that that will be the case in Massachusetts or in North Reading, but again, we're trying to follow a preparedness model and stay ahead of this matter, and certainly appreciate the feedback and comments that have been received from the board members with regard to the matter as well. We'll continue to keep the board and the community apprised as we monitor this. We're in regular communication by participating in state conference calls and talking with our regional partners. And we'll continue to provide the best available information to the community as well as to our employees as well. And that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you. And I appreciate the board's consideration of the revised report.
All the new business, before we do the regular thing, I want to just make a statement regarding the secondary school building project. This is a public statement. On October 6, 2014, the Board of Selectmen notified North Reading Secondary School Building Project architect Durham Winnie, Inc., and owner project manager PMA Consultants, LLC, that it was requesting to go into mediation with each contractor to recover costs associated with substantial increases to the budget for the middle and high school construction project. This action is a result of a result of due diligence by the Board of Selectmen per its commitment made to the town during the process of requesting an additional $15.5 million in funding in 2013. The board remains committed to working with both of these contractors to complete this important project in a timely manner while a matter of increased cost is addressed in an appropriate forum. The board will keep the town appraised of any developments on this matter, but will have no further comment at this time. You can get a copy from
Yeah.
Mike if you have it, okay? Mr. O'Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few brief things. One was I had the privilege of bringing the superintendent, Ted Nickley, and principal, David DeBarry of the Northeast Regional Metropolitan Vocational School, and Judy Diamond, to come up and visit our new high school. They're in the process now of looking at a project down there in Wakefield, and they were interested in coming up and touring our new facility. And I want to thank the new superintendent, the then high school principal, John Bernard, for escorting us around and giving us the head chef's tour of the school. And they were particularly grateful, and they thought that they can glean an awful lot of information and some insight as they tackle their upcoming project. So it was great to spend a couple of hours with them, and again, prior to that, came here and they made the presentation to Mr. Gilberto for the $10,000 lottery win. We appreciate them doing that also. We had a couple of individuals who passed away in the last couple of weeks since our last meeting, since town meeting, which I think should be noted. You know, Dr. Bill Butler, the former high school principal, who was an active member of our community for, I think, 16 years he was principal here. Untimely passing at age 70. So our condolences go out to his wife Connie, again, who was a longtime teacher in North Reading Public Schools, and his children. I'm sure they're going to miss him terribly. A terrific guy, a great educator, and very much involved with the youth of our community. And also, additionally, Emilio Steve DeFranza passed away. Happy's husband, Steve, who quietly gave of his talents to this community in so many ways. And the most visible being, as you go through the center of town, the Center Historic Village District signs were designed by Steve, along with the Afghans that are sold, and a whole host of other things that have been displayed throughout the community. So he has quietly given his talents to the community, for which we're eternally grateful, and we mourn his passing and send our condolences to Happy and their family. And a couple of days, I just want to congratulate my mother, who's going to have her 95th birthday. So she's doing well, and for all those that have expressed good wishes to her, we appreciate it very much, and I just want to say a happy birthday to my mother. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Mr. Ewing.
Happy birthday, Edith. And yes, my condolences to the DeFranza family. I didn't realize how wonderful of an artist he is.
Tremendously talented.
That's because he was so low-key.
Yeah, yeah. He also had some murals or paintings at Christ Church, where I go in Andover. So just a fantastic artist, and I'm sure that was reflective of the type of dad he was and the type of husband he was. On another note, a town meeting, something occurred that concerned me, that involved this board, some of the members of this board, and some of the members of the past board. And so it concerned me that the exchange with the cross easement agreement I found very bothersome. So I think what I needed to do is I had to find out, because I haven't been on the board for 2 years, I had to find out from where the accurate information was versus the misconceptions. And what I did was I put everything in calendar order. And with regard to the cross easement agreement that was signed by 3 of the 5 Board of Selectmen, the final one, there was nothing wrong with that agreement. It was a solid agreement. The agreement wasn't the issue that you were confronted with. What really transpired was that there were steps taken by the town in meeting the Board of Selectmen that created a problem that was in violation of the agreement. Back in January 2012, the bridge was blocked for liability reasons until repairs had to be done, even though the agreement was to allow for vehicular access. Later on, in May of 2012, there was an estimate done, and according, I think Steve indicated that the cost was somewhere about $250,000 to $270,000. Then the bridge was repaired and reopened for pedestrian use only. So we signed an agreement, and then we violated the agreement. And that's basically the only reason that the Smith family could possibly have a lawsuit against us. If we didn't do that, if we made that bridge accessible for vehicular, and not industrial vehicular, but truck vehicular, passenger vehicular capacity, we would never have had the agreement broken, and everything would have been fine, there would have been no case. So I think it's very important for us to understand that it wasn't the cross easement agreement. There was no liability until we restricted vehicular activity. And that was pretty much in the agreement. Now, the question that I have on that is, why did we do that as a board? What caused us to violate the agreement? Because that decision cost us $50,000 and access to property that we would have had available to us for indefinitely. And that would have allowed us to do something with the property maybe sooner than later. So right now, we're kind of restricted on what we can do with the property, not in its entirety, but still restricted because we'd have to build a new entryway into the property. The other thing, I had a question on this. When I looked at the settlement agreement, it was signed by the members of the board on the 7th of May. The agreement was signed. And Delaney's signature is on that document. And he was not a selectman at that time. The date on the document is May 7th, 2014. So I don't know what that does, and it's a question that I have, but I don't know what that does to the legality of that contract. So I think that's a question that we really need to have answered. But I don't think I would have gone through this whole process, because I recall when I got on the board, with the agreement with the Smith family, I didn't really want to have my name attached to it, because I wasn't sure that the right thing or the correct thing was being done. So I think that it's important for the people of North Reading to know that sometimes we do have a good agreement, and sometimes we make mistakes after the agreement. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that I always find that the weakest link in town government are the head boards, such as the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, and so on, because we can't know everything and we make honest mistakes. So that was my concern with regard to that, and I thought that needed to be clarified. The other issue that I had was that selectmen should not be attacking other selectmen. They shouldn't be saying that, well, I didn't do it, it was because of them. That's not appropriate as far as I'm concerned. I think that's out of order. And I think in going forward, especially, you know, it comes with the role of a chairman or a vice chairman. There are certain responsibilities that has, because you represent, that position represents the town and the leadership of the committee. And that's very important that it's very important that a vice chairman not get up and criticize members of the board, even if it's to prove a point. Now, factually, you can do that, but prove a point and based on a false premise. So I just wanted to share that. And I'll leave it at that at this point, but the cross easement agreement was a good agreement. We violated it, but we need anybody in a responsible role, such as a vice chairman, to respect the members of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I keep hearing we violated. I'd like to know who is we.
Okay.
Because
I'll tell you, I can answer that question for
Okay.
you, okay? The Board of Selectmen of 2012 to 2013, when the action took place to approve the bridge, the work on the bridge, to be a pedestrian bridge at that point. Had to be, because it was done.
No, I think you had the facts a little mixed
Well,
up.
let me take a stab at it. You know, as far as, you know, whether the town breached the agreement or not, that wasn't adjudicated. It was alleged by the Smiths that we didn't meet the obligations of the cross easement agreement that we entered into. It was brought before the judge. The judge said maybe you guys should go sit down and talk about it and try and work out some sort of a mutually agreeable thing. If not, he was more than happy to make a decision, one way or the other. During the months that took place, you know, between then and town meeting's action, this board made a determination that it was in the town's best interest to give up the rights to the bridge and give it all back to the Smiths. You know, what did happen and what did occur there is that vehicle access was limited for a period of time, and still is limited this particular date, because we didn't spend any money to bring it up to any particular safety code to handle vehicle access. But it has never been determined one way or the other whether we were in conflict or it breached or not. It was alleged, it was never adjudicated, and what we have stipulated to is asking the judge to agree to the agreement that we have and giving back the bridges and paying the $50,000 for costs, as part of the cost that they've incurred in trying to perfect their interests and their property rights. So we've admitted no guilt or responsibility, but during the course of negotiations with the Smiths, we came to this mutual agreement, which was just ratified by town meeting. You know, so that's what happened. There were allegations made, a suit was filed, and it was settled, and we brought it to town meeting, and that settlement was ratified. So,
And it's over with.
yeah, and it's over. And it's over.
I'm with you on that, but
There's no doubt that you know, people can come to whatever conclusions they would like as to whether or not we were in violation or not in violation, whether it was in the best interest of the town to give up our rights to those bridges and give it back to the Smiths. But what this board did is we did what we felt was in the best interest, financial best interest of the town, brought that forward for consideration at town meeting, and it passed.
And I don't question that you did what you thought was the best, in the best
Right,
interest of the
and there's always gonna be someone's gonna second guess.
All of our decisions are based on that.
And-
I grant
And
that.
again, as far as, at the time, it was signed by the 5 members of the board who reached the agreement through negotiations prior to your election. The date may have been the 7th of May, which was after the town election,
Yes, it
but Mr. Delaney did take the vote, did take the action, and did participate in the negotiations as to what the final details of that agreement was going to be. When we were sitting in this room here, Mr. Smith and his attorney was in the other room over there, and mediation was taking place between the parties. And when all the terms and conditions, as was stipulated at town meeting, Mr. Delaney was a member of the board. It may have been signed after,
Yeah, because the final
the
document.
final document may have been signed on the 7th of May, but the actual vote on the terms and conditions were taken prior to May 5th? What was it?
Yeah,
May 5th.
May
Yeah.
6th was the election.
So May 6th. So all of that was done prior to the election. Actually, probably a couple of weeks before, maybe even more. So the date on the document may be May 7th, with Mr. Delaney signing as a member of the board. The action and the vote that was taken and the stipulations that we agreed to were all done prior to your election to the board, or re-election to the board.
I assume that, to be quite frank with you, but I'm just looking
Your
at a
assumption would have been
document-
correct.
I'm looking at a document and.
And it's all correct.
Yeah.
The document is right, the timeline is right.
So it's a concern that I had, so I looked at that.
All right, can we move on now? Are you done?
No.
I think they want to make some comments, but.
Mr. Briscoe?
Mr. Lee, you continue to attack me like this, okay? By saying that at town meeting, that I attacked this board, or certain members of this board, but you come to open session and you do the same to me. And two wrongs don't make a right, but in the future, if you have an issue like this, I don't see what you're trying to achieve by bringing it out here. You could have picked up the phone, we could have had some discussions prior to this meeting. But I understand where you're trying to go. I know what your agenda is, and you can continue to keep doing that, but I feel I bring a lot of value to this board, and I know you disagree with that. I know you don't respect me
Right,
as a board. No, hold on. He had his opportunity, Bob,
Yeah,
and you have to
okay.
give me my opportunity. You should have cut this off way before, and you let it get to this point, and it's wrong. I work very hard on this board. I put a lot of time and effort in, and to come here and to continue to be, by this gentleman here, to be criticized by him and to be treated like a child on telling me how I should act is unacceptable. And I'm not going to put up with it anymore, Jeff. If you don't believe me, walk around town, ask. Go and see who's doing what. Look at the work that's being done. I'm not out trying to hurt this board. I'm not out trying to give a bad light on this board. I'm trying to put my best foot forward for this town. It isn't about me. It isn't about you. And you need to just stop it today.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. First of all,
I'm not going to let this go too much further,
that's fine, but it
okay?
needs to be drawn to a close here, okay?
Oh, you get the last word.
Let me-
You get the
let me
last
say-
word, Mr.
When was
Yule.
the last time, when was
You
the
get the-
last
you
time
get the last
I
word.
criticized you, Mr. Briscoe?
Several
When was
months
the
ago.
last time?
Several months
All
ago.
right.
Thank you.
It's
Okay,
over.
No.
It's
Oh, no,
over.
it's not over.
It's
not
over. It's over.
Okay, because.
You know what?
It's
I'm gonna have-
over.
if you don't-
It's
you're gonna have-
over.
You're gonna have a letter to the editor. You're
Fine,
gonna have a letter
that's
to the
okay, you
editor.
can have a letter to the editor.
Because
It
this
is
guy plays
over.
his games the way he
It is
plays his
over.
games. He's walking out like a child, like he always does. He does it all the time.
Stop it. Yeah, I did.
I have other notes here that that man should be removed as the vice chair, okay? You want me to go through that as well?
No.
Here's
Yes.
when he did, what he did,
Stop it
what he
now.
did at the RMLD was embarrassing to this town.
Mr. Fode,
I got nothing.
I have just a couple of updates. The Capital Planning Committee's had 3 meetings. The first one was basically just to get things off the ground. All of the town capital has been submitted. The school committee has submitted their capital. We've kind of briefly gone through it all. We have had our next meeting we will start with, I think it's the school committee will go through the detail of what their commitments are, and in the process of the next few weeks, when we get through, we're meeting once a week, basically, we'll be prioritizing the capital list, and then we'll determine the dollar amount, which I think we're, based on the $500,000 that we have put in place for, from the free cash into the capital stabilization fund. We should be able to come close to executing what our plan was going forward. We're putting, this coming year, we'll be putting $125,000 from the operating budget into it, per the plan, to get to, over the next 4 years, the $200,000 amount, to make this thing more or less a self-funding approach. Now, you know, the flying ointment is maintaining a reasonable amount of free cash each year, and not going overboard with snow and ice, meaning we're at the hands of Mother Nature, but those are the items that we have to deal with. We met, Mike, the town administrator, and our finance director, and I met with, was that Linda that was at the meeting?
It was, yes.
Yeah, so it was Linda Borneval from KMS Actuaries, and we kind of got some input on the OPEB, and you know, what our obligations are, what our options are. She's going to provide us some additional information, and the purpose of the meeting was, I had requested it, was to get enough information so that we could have a reasonable discussion during our strategic planning meeting and how we're going to address this. And I think we all learned a lot, and we'll be discussing that at our financial planning team meeting. So I apologize to the board for letting things get out of hand. I'll try not to do that in the future. And at this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?